Here we have a sample of grades for a Math 152 quiz. The question here is asking us to find the range, variance, and standard deviation of this list. First, let's find the range. In order to calculate the range, we will need both the maximum value and the minimum value. We'll type a label for those in column C. Based on those, we can find the range. In order to calculate the range, in Excel we can say equals the maximum minus the minimum. To find the maximum of the list, we'll say equals max, open a parentheses, and then select the list. For the minimum, we can do similarly, equals min, open a parentheses, and select the list once again. Let's demonstrate. In box D3, we'll place the maximum. We type an equal sign, max, Shift 9 will open parentheses, and then we use the white plus sign to click on A2 and drag downward until we have all of our lists selected. Inside the parentheses, it says A2 to A17. That's the entirety of our list. Press Shift 0 to close, and press Enter, and we see that our maximum is 100. We'll repeat this for the minimum, and we'll say equals min, Shift 9 to open parentheses, click on A2 and hold the mouse button down. Move the mouse button until we have all of our numbers selected. Close the parentheses with Shift 0 and press Enter. We have a maximum of 100 and a minimum of 50. To calculate the range, we say equals, click on the 100, not on the word, but rather on the number. Press the subtraction sign and click on the minimum with your mouse. You'll notice the maximum is in blue in the formula and also here on the table with this 100 selected in a blue box. Minus D4 in red, that's this minimum also highlighted in red. Press Enter and we'll have a range of 50. We'll paint that gold by clicking on Home, going to the paint bucket icon, clicking the arrow and selecting the gold color. This is a good way to point out your main answers. We are also asked to find variance. In order to calculate variance, there is an automated Excel function we can use. We say equals VAR for variance, dot S, the dot S stands for of the sample, and then we can open a parentheses and once again select our list. Let's do this now. In the box next to the word variance, we say equals var.s, open parentheses, and select our entire list as we did previously. Close parentheses, and we get a variance of 132.9167. Now, you may also need to change the number of decimal places displayed for certain web checkers. Some online applications demand a certain number of decimal places. To do this, we can click on our answer, go back up to Home in the upper left-hand corner, and go to the Number menu. I'll take a picture of the Number menu now. In the Number menu, you'll see two buttons on the right side that have a series of zeros. The button on the left is called the Increase Decimal button. If we click on our answer, go back to Home and click the Increase Decimal button, we'll be provided with additional decimal places. If you want fewer decimal places, we'll need to use the button to the right of it. It's located where I'm drawing the box in green. This is called Decrease Decimal. So to decrease decimal, we click on Home once again, go to the Decrease Decimal button, and click on it multiple times to reduce the number of decimal places. The more you click on it, the more decimal places are taken away. For example, if we wanted a single decimal place in our answer, we would continue until only one decimal place remains. We could say that the variance is 132.9 rather than typing all of those decimal places. Again, this depends on what your automatic grader will want. But once again, I'll paint it gold by clicking the paint bucket. We are also asked to find standard deviation. This is often abbreviated STDEV. There are two ways we could calculate this here. The first would be to use the built-in Excel function, equals stdev.s is the name of the function. Again, we open a parentheses and select the list. Our second option would be to take the square root of the variance. That's the same thing as the standard deviation. In Excel, we can also do this by saying sqrt for square root, open a parentheses again, and then click on the variance. And then close the parentheses afterward. Let's demonstrate. We'll click on this box next to my standard deviation label. We'll say stdev.s, open the parentheses, and select our list of data. Close the parentheses and press enter, and we get a standard deviation of 11.528, followed by many decimal places. We don't really need to display all of those, so I will go back to home and click decrease decimal until we have only one decimal place. We can say our standard deviation is 11.5. Let's also demonstrate the second method, saying equals sqrt, open parentheses, and click on the variance in D7. Close parentheses and press enter. We get 11.5289, again, with many decimal places. Once again, let's decrease the decimals by clicking the decrease decimal button. We can see that we also get 11.5 either way. Therefore, we'll say the standard deviation is 11.5. Now, the standard deviation is a measure of how spread out from the average that data is. For example, you may have a bell-shaped distribution that has a very narrow curve in the middle. We would say this has a low standard deviation because it's not very spread out. You may encounter another distribution with a very wide curve. We would say this has a high standard deviation because the data is fairly spread out here. Now, of course, low and high are relative terms, and those will depend on how big the average is as well. So, if you had a very large average, also having a high standard deviation to go with it might not actually look that wide. But if your average was really small, a small standard deviation to go with it, if they were about the same size, might appear very wide indeed.